Deep inside a $13 billion U.S. Navy aircraft carrier, there's something most people would never expect to find on a warship. A store. A small shop where sailors can buy snacks, energy drinks, toothpaste, socks, and other everyday essentials while the ship is deployed in the middle of the ocean. And that might sound simple, but this store is serving more than 5,000 sailors living on board what is essentially a floating city at sea. Just above the shop, fighter jets launch from the flight deck, engineers monitor nuclear reactors deep inside the ship, thousands of sailors work around the clock to keep this massive war machine running. Yet, somewhere inside this enormous vessel, sailors are grabbing ramen noodles, energy drinks, and coffee before their next shift. Because when thousands of people live on a ship for months at a time, everyday life doesn't stop. But running a store for 5,000 sailors thousands of miles from land turns out to be far more complicated than it sounds. And the way the U.S. Navy keeps these stores stocked in the middle of the ocean is part of a massive logistical operation that most people never see. To understand why a store even exists in a warship, you have to first understand the scale of an aircraft carrier. Ships, like the Nimitz class and the newer Ford class carriers, are among the largest warships ever built. These massive ships are over 330 meters long, powered by nuclear reactors, and carry an air wing of dozens of fighter jets and helicopters. But the most impressive number isn't the aircraft, it's the people. A typical U.S. Navy aircraft carrier has a crew of around 4,500 to more than 5,000 sailors living and working on board all at the same time. Pilots, engineers, mechanics, technicians, medics, cooks, storefront operators, hundreds of specialists working together to keep the ship operating every single day. And when a carrier deploys, those sailors can spend 6 to 9 months at sea. During that time, the ship may travel thousands of miles across entire oceans while supporting military operations, training exercises, or security missions around the world. For the crew on board, that creates a very unusual situation. There are no normal stores nearby, no supermarkets, no convenience stores, no quick trip to grab a snack or basic supplies. Everything the crew needs has to exist somewhere inside the ship itself. Because when thousands of people are living and working together inside a steel ship in the middle of the ocean, small everyday things suddenly become very important. Running out of coffee during a night shift, losing a pair of socks, or realizing you forgot to pack something before deployment. And that's exactly where the ship store comes in. Inside the aircraft carrier, that small shop plays a surprisingly important role in keeping thousands of sailors supplied during months at sea. So, where exactly is this store inside the ship? Inside a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier, the shop is usually known as the ship's store. And unlike a normal shop on land, you won't find it with big signs or large windows. It's located deep inside the ship, along the interior passageways where sailors move between workspaces, sleeping areas, and mess decks. From the outside, it might just look like another small room in another long, narrow hallway. But inside, it functions like a compact convenience store designed specifically for life at sea. Shelves are tightly packed with everyday items a sailor might suddenly need during a long deployment. Snacks, energy drinks, candy bars, ramen noodles, protein bars, and then there are, of course, the essentials: toothpaste, razors, deodorant, shaving cream, soap, socks. Small things that might seem ordinary on land suddenly become incredibly important when the nearest port could be thousands of miles away. The store is part of the Navy Exchange System, often called the NEX, which operates retail stores on military bases around the world. But running a store on a warship is very different than running one on land. The ship's store is typically managed by sailors from the ship's supply department, specifically specialists trained to handle retail operations, inventory, and logistics while deployed at sea. They track what items sell quickly, what needs restocking, and how to manage limited shelf space inside the ship. Because space on an aircraft carrier is extremely valuable. Every square inch inside the ship is carefully planned, which means that the store has to operate in a surprisingly small area compared to a normal convenience store. But, despite the limited space, the shop still carries a surprising variety of products. Everything from phone chargers to headphones, to laundry detergent, to shaving kits, even small electronics. And there's one other interesting detail. The store isn't designed to make a profit in the traditional sense. Money earned through the Navy exchange system helps fund morale, welfare, and recreation programs, often called MWR. These programs support things like gyms, recreation areas, movie nights, and other activities that help sailors relax during long deployments. But while the store itself may look simple, it hides a much bigger challenge. Because selling snacks and supplies to 5,000 sailors is one thing, keeping those shelves stocked in the middle of the ocean is something else entirely. Finding the ship's store inside an aircraft carrier can actually be a little bit confusing for new sailors. Unlike shopping malls or supermarkets on land, aircraft carriers are built around efficiency and military operations, not retail space. Long, narrow passageways run through the ship like a maze, connecting sleeping quarters, workspaces, engine rooms, and control centers. On many carriers, the store is positioned in one of the interior decks near the main living areas, making it easier for sailors to stop by during breaks or after their shifts. But the space is much smaller than most people would expect. Instead of wide aisles and large shelves, the layout is compact and tightly organized. Every shelf is carefully arranged to hold as many items as possible, while still allowing sailors to move through the store quickly. During busy hours, especially after long work shifts, the small shop can fill up fast as sailors line up to grab a quick snack or pick something up they need before heading back to work. And the ship store isn't the only place where sailors can find small treats. Across the carrier, you'll often find vending machines placed in common areas, offering quick access to drinks, candy, and snacks without having to visit the store itself. Life on an aircraft carrier runs 24 hours a day. There's no real day or night in the traditional sense. Flight operations can happen at any hour, maintenance crews work around the clock, and engineers monitor the ship systems deep inside the vessel at all times. For many sailors, a normal workday can easily stretch to 12, 14, or even 16 hours, depending on the mission. Flight deck crews operate in one of the most intense environments on the ships. Surrounded by roaring jet engines and moving aircraft, they guide fighters into position, secure equipment, and prepare the deck for the next launch. Below the deck, maintenance teams inspect aircraft, repair equipment, and prepare jets for their next flight. Deep inside the ship, engineers monitor the massive nuclear reactors that power the carrier and keep its systems running. It's demanding work, and it all happens every single day during deployment. So when sailors finally get a short break between shifts, many of them head to the same place, the ship's store. And the store isn't just about necessities, sometimes it's about comfort. Because after a long shift, grabbing a favorite snack or a drink can just be a small moment of normal life in an environment that's otherwise highly structured and demanding. That's one reason why certain items disappear quickly from the shelves. Energy drinks, candy, and instant noodles, they're especially popular among sailors during deployment. In fact, after a resupply arrives, some of these items can sell out surprisingly fast. But that raises an interesting question. How do thousands of snacks, drinks, and everyday supplies even reach a ship that might be operating thousands of miles from the nearest port? How do you resupply a store in the middle of the ocean? Because an aircraft carrier isn't just far from land. Sometimes it's thousands of miles away from the nearest port, literally operating in the middle of a vast ocean region where there are no nearby supply bases. Yet, the shelves inside the ship's store still need to be restocked with snacks, drinks, and everyday items for thousands of sailors. And this is where one of the most impressive logistical systems in naval operations comes into play. It's called a replenishment at sea, shortened often to RAS. Instead of returning to port every time the ship needs supplies, the U.S. Navy uses specialized supply ships that can deliver cargo while both vessels are still moving through the ocean. These ships are part of the Navy's logistics fleet and carry huge amounts of food, equipment, fuel, and everyday supplies needed by carrier strike groups. When it's time to resupply, the supply ship just sails alongside the aircraft carrier, sometimes only 30 to 50 meters apart. Both ships maintain the exact same speed and direction while crews prepare for the transfer. From the outside, believe me, it's an impressive sight. Heavy cables are stretched between the two ships, and then cranes begin moving cargo pallets across the gap between the vessels, over the water. Large nets filled with boxes of supplies slide across the cables, slowly traveling from the supply ship to the aircraft carrier. Inside those cargo pallets can be almost anything the crew needs. Food for the ship's galley, replacement parts for aircraft, medical supplies, and of course, products destined for the ship's store. Snacks, drinks, toiletries, everyday essentials. But that's only one method. There's another way supplies can reach the carrier, and it happens directly from the air. Helicopters from the supply ship can lift cargo pallets using large sling loads and fly them directly onto the carrier's flight deck. This is known as vertical replenishment, or VertRep. From above, it almost looks like a carefully choreographed operation, because, well, it is. Helicopters move back and forth between the ships, carrying nets filled with boxes, while deck crews guide the cargo safely onto the flight deck. Once the supplies arrive, sailors quickly unload the pallets and transport the cargo inside of the ship. From there, the ship's supply team sorts everything and distributes it throughout the carrier. Food goes to the kitchens, equipment goes to the maintenance team, and the products destined for the ship's store eventually make their way onto those tightly packed shelves. And all of this happens while the carrier continues operating at sea. It's a system designed to keep an entire floating city running without ever needing to return to land. But even with these complex resupply operations, keeping thousands of sailors supplied during months at sea requires enormous planning. Because the amount of food, drinks, and everyday items consumed on a carrier is far larger than most people imagine. Keeping a single store stocked for a few hundred people would already require careful planning. But an aircraft carrier isn't supplying a few hundred people, it's supplying an entire floating city of more than 5,000 sailors. And when that many people live and work together for months at sea, the amount of supplies consumed every day becomes enormous. Food alone is a massive operation. The ship's galleys serve thousands of meals every single day, feeding the crew around the clock as shifts rotate through flight operations, maintenance work, and watch duty. But beyond full meals, sailors also go through huge amounts of everyday items. Their snacks, their energy drinks, their coffee. And those small things add up quickly when thousands of people are buying them day after day, week after week. Every week, an aircraft carrier can go through thousands of snacks and drinks from the ship's store, and vending machines as well that are scattered throughout the vessel. And that's just the beginning. Don't forget those personal supplies. Your toothpaste, your soap, your shaving cream, disposable razors, anything that a sailor could regularly replace during a long deployment. And all of this means that the ship's supply department has to carefully track inventory to make sure that important items don't run out before the next resupply operation. Inside the carrier, large storage areas hold pallets of supplies waiting to be distributed throughout the ship. Some of these storage rooms are packed floor to ceiling with boxes of food and everyday items. But space is always limited. Every square foot inside the ship is valuable, which means supply officers have to constantly balance how much inventory they can store within the space available. And while food and operational supplies are always the highest priority, the ship's store still needs enough products to keep thousands of sailors supplied during long stretches at sea. Because even the small things like snacks and drinks and personal items can make a huge difference during a demanding deployment. And that becomes clear when you look at what sailors actually buy from the store. Walk into the ship store during any busy moment, and you'll quickly notice something interesting. Most sailors aren't buying large amounts of supplies. Instead, they're grabbing small, quick items that make life on deployment a little bit easier. Snacks are easily one of the most popular purchases. Instant ramen noodles has become something of a classic shipboard snack. It's quick and easy to prepare, you can store it in a small locker, and it's perfect for a quick meal during a late shift. Another extremely popular item is energy drinks. During long operations, especially night shifts, many sailors rely on caffeine to stay alert. As a result, energy drinks, coffee products, and sodas tend to sell very quickly, sometimes even faster than expected. In fact, after a major resupply operation, some of the most popular items can disappear from the shelves within hours. Energy drinks and certain snacks are known to sell out particularly fast. But food isn't the only thing sailors buy. Many purchases are just basic personal items: deodorant, razors, toothpaste, shampoo, laundry detergent, and extra socks. During a 6 to 9 month deployment, sailors regularly run out of these items every day, and they just simply need replacements. And the ship's store isn't the only place sailors go for services on board. Most aircraft carriers also have a barber shop, where sailors can get a haircut to stay within Navy grooming standards. There are laundry areas where sailors can wash their uniform and their clothes. And many ships have recreation areas where crew members can relax when they're off duty. All of these small services help to make life on board a little bit more manageable during long deployments. And there's yet another detail many people wonder about. When sailors grab a snack or supplies from the ship's store, do they actually have to pay for it? The answer is absolutely yes. Items in the ship's store are not free. Just like in a normal shop, sailors purchase what they need using their own money. But paying inside a warship in the middle of the ocean works a little bit differently than on land. Most U.S. Navy ships use a system called Navy Cash. This system allows sailors to make purchases using their military ID cards or linked debit accounts, creating a cashless payment system on board the ship. Instead of carrying physical cash, transactions are processed electronically and connected to the sailor's personal bank account. There are several reasons for this. Handling large amounts of cash on a warship is complicated and risky. A digital system makes transactions faster, safer, and easier to track. So when a sailor grabs a snack or an energy drink or even a new pair of socks from the store, the purchase is simply charged to their account. It's a small system that helps keep everyday life running smoothly on a ship carrying thousands of people. And even though the ship store plays an important role on board, it doesn't operate like a normal supermarket. Space inside the carrier is extremely limited, and that means that the store can only carry a small selection of products at any given time. Shelves are carefully stocked with items that sailors are most likely going to need during deployment. But the variety is still much smaller than you would find in a regular store on land. And when thousands of sailors shop at the same place, some products can disappear ridiculously fast. And sometimes the shelves have to stay empty until the next resupply operation arrives. That means the store supply teams constantly have to balance demand with storage space and resupply schedules. Because if they miscalculate what the crew needs, thousands of sailors could suddenly find their favorite snacks missing from the shelves. And for a ship at sea for months, that can make a surprisingly big difference. On the surface, an aircraft carrier is built for one purpose: war. These ships launch fighter jets, carry powerful weapons, and project military power across entire oceans. Every system on board is designed to support complex military operations. But deep inside these massive ships, everyday life still continues. Thousands of sailors wake up, go to work, stand watch, repair aircraft, monitor engines, and keep the carrier running day and night. And somewhere in the middle of all that activity, sailors still stop by a small little store, grabbing a snack, buying some toothpaste, or picking up a quick energy drink before the next shift. It's a small detail that most people never even think about, but it helps keep life on board running smoothly during months away at sea. Because in many ways, an aircraft carrier really is what sailors often call it, a city at sea. So what do you think about this system? What do you think about sailors paying for their items on board and having stores inside a warship? Let me know in the comments and share your thoughts and experiences, and subscribe to the channel and help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.